大家好，歡迎大家嚟到 Edchin World 世界頻道同埋 Facebook 直播。希望大家支持我哋世界嘅製作，透過 patreon.com/edchin 或者我哋嘅宗教節目捐贈平台 giftsandgo.com/safehk 等我哋有更加多嘅資源走最遠嘅路。今日咧，我哋咧請嚟嘅嘉賓咧就係蘋果一傳媒嘅上市公司嘅前董事 Mark Clifford， 會同我哋傾下關於黎智英先生喺今個月即係11月20號將會係上庭啦，咁應該係會係自辯講下呢件事啦。咁同埋大家知道喺19號就係47人案嘅判案都會係出現，同埋下個月再下個月即係2025年嘅1月5號咧，我哋世界香港論壇咧會喺多倫多，就今年係第4屆啦，咁就會講下裏邊啲logistics 係點嘅。So Mark, it's a pleasure to have you appearing at Edchin World again. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Great to be here, Ed.
Now, I guess I just mentioned what we're going to talk about in the next 20 minutes or so. What I did not mention is there is a new book on Jimmy Lai that is coming out soon, and then that would be, you will have the first global launch in Toronto, if I'm correct.
That's right. Yeah. Well, thanks. My book, The Troublemaker, about Jimmy Lai, is coming out next month, December, and I think it's a chance to bring this remarkable man's story to the attention of more people around the world. I mean, I think everybody in Hong Kong knows about Jimmy Lai, although I think there are even people who know Jimmy will be surprised by some of the material in this book. This guy is not only a heroic figure, one of the great leaders really in Hong Kong freedom, the fight for freedom, but he's also one of the greatest entrepreneurs that the city has ever produced. I mean, of course, there were thousands and thousands of great businessmen who've grown to prosperity, risen to prosperity in the last 60, 70 years in Hong Kong. There are very, very few like Jimmy Lai. And so I hope that the book will help people understand that, he's a family man, he's a businessman, he's a political leader, he's a man of faith, and he's just an unyielding symbol of resistance against the Chinese Communist Party. So I hope more people can appreciate Jimmy and everything about him. And I really welcome the opportunity to be in Toronto with you and others to talk about this. I think you might be on mute, Ed.
Now I think it's better. I was saying Jimmy is a good friend to some of us, and we know him, have gone through a lot of obstacles, especially, I guess, since I would say even the umbrella movement, the Chinese government, the CCP, look at him as a public enemy #1 almost. And but I want to ask you one thing though, Mark. Why is it called the troublemaker? It's a very eye-catching word.
One time one of the last times I talked to Jimmy, and shortly before he went to jail in 2020, and he just said, I'm a troublemaker. I can't help myself. And so I was also thinking of the words of the late, great, legendary United States civil rights leader, John Lewis, who talked about, he said, make trouble, make good trouble. And Jimmy's somebody who's never content to, whether it's in business or as in his art or certainly in politics, he's not the kind of guy that's just going to lie back and let the world go by. He is going to make good trouble in the sense of trying to make his country, his society, his city, whatever he's involved with, his business, try to make it better. And that's what I mean. He's a troublemaker in a good sense. A troublemaker in the sense of being a deep Chinese and Hong Kong patriot. mean, Jimmy's problem is that he loved China too much. I mean, it's ironic you say, and I think you're correct, that the Chinese Communist Party regards Jimmy as something like public enemy number one. Here's a guy who loves his country. He did all this because he loved Hong Kong. I mean, but he's a proud Chinese person. He believed so much in the premise of reform in China. And yes, he does not like the Chinese Communist Party, but it's not that he doesn't like China. He loves China. And that's the kind of trouble he wants to make China a better place.
Yeah. Regarding Jimmy's upcoming trial, has been ongoing. It stopped, and then the King's Counsel cannot be sent to Hong Kong to represent him, Mark Owen, and some of us know about the specifics. November 20th, it's a big day to start. I heard that Jimmy will do his so-called testimonial or self-defense, but even on the 19th of November, one day beforehand, the verdict will be passed for the 47 people that we know who participated in the primary.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So these like series of events doesn't mean that we are going into the climax of the social movement of Hong Kong. Also, we have the alliance case, Cho Hang Tong, Lee Cheuk Yin, likely in the earlier part of 2025. So we should all be concerned. I mean, people in the diaspora community and also people who are living in Hong Kong. But seems like Hong Kong is silenced. Is that the reason why you published this book? And also, I will talk about the World Hong Kong Forum later.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to talk about there. I think we're at the end of the beginning in the sense of the clampdown on freedom in Hong Kong. The national security law came into effect in 2020, June 30th, very late at night on June 30th, 2020, rushed through, imposed on the people of Hong Kong, illegally, I might add. And the roundup started later that year. Jimmy was first arrested. Apple Daily was raided on August 10th, so just about 6 weeks later. He was released. Then he was put back in jail permanently just about 4 years ago, December 2020. January 6, 2021 was when the roundup of the Hong Kong 47 took place. So, we saw a lot of arrests in that first year, and now we're seeing the trials taking place. I mean, it's a joke, honestly. The conviction rate is almost 100%, as Hong Kong officials themselves have argued. We're going to see maybe a slight correction in terms of Hong Kong 47. We've seen the verdicts. What we're going to see is the sentencing on November 19th.
Sentencing.
So, I mean, what kind of sentences are people going to get? I mean, again, you and I, you were very involved with the primary. I mean, in any normal country, any open country, you would celebrate people for this sort of civic engagement, civic involvement, trying to channel your grievances through the ballot box. But somehow this was so threatening, the Chinese Communist Party, that they think they need to lock up some of the best and the brightest in Hong Kong. So, it's bad. Let's make no mistake about it. Nothing lasts forever. Even the Chinese Communist Party isn't going to last forever. Obviously, Hong Kong itself is silenced, and yet we have a diaspora movement that's certainly unlike anything in Chinese history before, but really almost unlike anything in global history. The Hong Kong movement, along with others fighting for mainland issues, for Tibetans, Uyghurs, we've got pretty powerful opposition to the continued repression of the Chinese Communist Party globally. Among Hong Kongers, Hong Kong supporters, political leaders of many stripes. I noticed the President-elect Donald Trump just a couple of weeks ago said 100% he would get Jimmy Lai out of jail. Right. Well, that would be a great start. I think the Chinese Communist Party needs to realize that it's one of the easiest low-cost gestures it could make towards the West, and particularly towards President-elect Trump, would be to let Jimmy Lai out. But let's make no mistake about it. That's the beginning of the next phase, and I'm quite confident we can get Jimmy out. I mean others, that Jimmy will be released. But there's still more than 1,000 people behind bars in Hong Kong. We've had over 1,900 political prisoners in the last 5 years. Unbelievable for what had been a free and open society. So we've got to get all of those people out.
If President-elect Trump stick to his words, that means right now it's already doing things already. I mean, he not himself met Jimmy, but I think the former Secretary of State, Michael Pompeo, and also the former Vice President, Mike Pence, met with Jimmy. So I guess it's not something new to former President Trump. And I remember even 4 years ago, during one of the press conferences that he held, he said he heard of him, he was a great man, something like that. And it was documented, I think, even in South China Morning Post. I look back the news from before. So you think, and I think in the brief podcast that he did with one of the influencers in DC, who is a lawyer background-wise, you think he would talk to President Xi Jinping directly about Jimmy?
I think the way that political prisoners are released in these sorts of situations requires engagement by leaders, the top leaders from both sides. I think if we look back to the case of Meng Wanzhou and the two Michaels,
the two Michaels,
who are obviously Canadians taken hostage, Xi Jinping himself intervened more than 100 times with various messages to his subordinates. So I think a release is going to take engagement by the very top leaders on both sides.
Okay. I also saw just in the news, because a lot of things have happened in the last 3 or 4 days. Some of the pro-Hong Kong democracy movement politicians will be engaged in the next cabinet. Michael Pompeo, and then there's the guy who is a Cuban background, Marco Rubio, right? Might be. I mean, it's rumor. It's in the Chinese news that he might be tipped as the next Secretary of State. I don't know. So these are people who understand the Hong Kong issues, that you know them well, right? Because of your capacity as the leader of CFHK.
I think one of the points is one of the great strengths that the Hong Kong diaspora movement has, or the democracy movement, is that they've been working and building friends in Washington for many years now, going back to the umbrella movement at least. But was quite successful during the first Trump administration, and I think we will be able to capitalize and take advantage of these relationships. But it's not just a matter of relationships. Hong Kong has a great story. It's about freedom and democracy against the autocracy and repression and totalitarianism of the Chinese Communist Party, which has never, or certainly not in the last 40 plus years, been more repressive than under Xi Jinping. So it's it's an issue that unites Democrats, Republicans in the United States. The issue of Hong Kong freedom and of pushing back against the CCP is one that has perhaps the most unifying issue that's out there.
Okay.
And
now we'll see.
We'll see who's in the next administration. I mean, it's just too early to tell at this point.
Okay. But going back a few years ago, you worked very closely with Jimmy in the podcast at Twitter, now called X, right? So I guess if you were still in Hong Kong, I don't know whether you can come out honestly, because I worked too close. I mean, too close and confident if you were in Hong Kong. But I guess it is a big relief also for us who are outside of Hong now who can do more. Won't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. No, we have enormous opportunities, and I think we owe it to our friends, our colleagues, to everybody. But for everybody in Hong Kong, I mean, it's interesting that every free election that Hong Kong had, from the first LegCo elections in 1991 until the last district council elections in November 2019, roughly 6 out of every 10 Hong Kong people voted for pro-democracy candidates. And
Yeah.
through thick and thin, I mean, even after the tumult of 2019, when everybody said, all the pro-Beijing people said there was going to be a silent blue wave, everybody was fed up with it. Well, we saw a landslide victory by the pro-democracy people. Hong
Yeah.
Kong people, we can't blame them for what the CCP is doing for them, and we have to take advantage of the freedom and the opportunities that we have, and the contacts we have throughout governments around the world, the advantages that technologies bring that allow us to build a very powerful diaspora network, a sort that wouldn't have been possible even 20 years ago. So yeah, we have great opportunities, and I mean, I think a real great responsibility to the people of Hong Kong.
Let me do just 30 seconds of translation. 其實我哋講咗好多啦，阿 Mark 講頭先話，如果我哋喺香港仲係做緊Twitter 嗰個 broadcast 可能都做唔到，但係咧we are grateful，因為咧我哋喺海外可能依家做得更加多。今日都講嚟緊新嗰個 cabinet， 即係 under Donald Trump， 可能有啲人 tip 咗話會做某啲嘢。咁 Marco Rubio 可能香港人都會聽過呢啲名，咁唔知道啊，即係呢啲 some rumors， 但係究竟即係邊個真係落手落腳會係去到阿 Trump 嗰個administration 做啲主要嘅工作咧，遲啲就會知。I'm not trying to drag on for a long interview, but I think this year is crucial, Mark, until next year with all the sentencing and then regarding Jimmy's testimony, it's pretty much confirmed that he will testify himself. He will speak, right, on the 20th.
That's my understanding. I'm not directly involved with his case, and I don't talk to the lawyers who are working on his case. As you pointed out, he was illegally denied his choice of lawyers when he wanted to get the King's Counsel, Tim Owens. So he's being represented by local Hong Kong lawyers. But my understanding is that he intends to testify, and I think it'll be interesting. If I could just take a few minutes to make some points about this trial. First of all, he was thrown in jail, denied bail on some theoretical spurious charges that he'd endangered national security. Now, he'd been doing what he and the other journalists at Apple and Next have been doing for a quarter century, which is free press, talking about free ideas, fighting for more democracy in Hong Kong. Not really sure why that's a crime. And I think the process, so first of all, this has taken forever, right? 4 years since they've jailed him on this, more than 4 years since they first arrested him on national security law charges. They had 26 years, of looking at what he did. And yet it's taken them so long. No jury trial. Again, illegal under the Hong Kong Basic Law to deny someone a jury trial, but they obviously can't expect a jury to convict Jimmy Lai because it's not clear what he did wrong. But I think that the prosecution has really struggled to make a case for what Jimmy's guilty of. And I think although several of his associates testified against him, and by the way, there are 6 people from Apple Daily who have been held in jail for over 3 years now, denied bail. They've all pled guilty. They haven't been sentenced. They're being held hostages to Jimmy's case. Again, they've testified against him. I'm not really sure why they're still being held hostage. But I think the prosecution is really struggling to make a case that's going to stand up to anybody besides these national security law judges, these handpicked judges. They're trying to make a case to the world why they should throw a man as courageous, brave, intelligent, principled and apostle of nonviolence into prison on national security law charges. And so I have a feeling, again, I'm not privy to anything, but
Mm.
of course, I understand Jimmy wants to testify on his own behalf. I think
Yeah.
they're hoping that he'll implicate himself, incriminate himself. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. It's a chance. He's had 4 years in prison to think about this. It's a chance for him to say why he did what he did, and of course, the judges will decide. I mean, it's a foregone conclusion. He'll be found guilty. It doesn't matter if he testifies, doesn't testify, what he says. He'll be found
Yeah.
guilty. I mean, the only question is how long the sentence will be. And for a guy who's 76 years old, any sentence is close to a death sentence. So
Yeah.
I think that the trial could go on the testimony could go on for some time, and then we'll get a verdict. Sometime probably towards the end of the first quarter next year, and a sentencing. We're assuming that in the first half, but again, the court proceedings have just dragged on and on and on, and Jimmy's case is, of course, the most high profile. But you've mentioned Chow Hong Tung, very, very courageous lawyer who's doing an excellent job defending herself. We have
And others too.
Yes.
And others too. Yeah.
The Hong Kong 47, 2 of whom were acquitted, but 45 of whom will be sentenced. As I say, I think we're at the end of this first phase. It's, I think, proven very embarrassing, very inconvenient to the Hong Kong government, because it's not really clear what people are guilty of. I mean, they're finding people guilty, as they did the other day with another independent media organization, of these very technical violations. Like, they kept their board minutes and list of directors. They didn't keep them in the office. They kept them somewhere else. I mean, these are just pathetic nonsense charges. But that's when you're the Chinese Communist Party. You judge someone guilty, and then you find a reason to throw them in jail. And unfortunately, Jimmy and more than 1,000 other people are victims of this criminal conspiracy by the CCP.
Yeah. One point I want to make, though, Mark, it's good to see President-elect Trump saying what he thinks he will do very soon. But it's also important for us as Hong Kongers to keep on voicing out, our deepest concerns about, a lot of the people that are that are sacrificed and now detained. We have to voice out for them. I mean, we cannot just rely on the U.S., even though you're American and you are Hong Kong PR too. We have to voice out ourselves. I mean, cannot just rely on the U.S. government to resurrect Jimmy, from the situation. I don't know whether you agree with that.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, we have to keep up the political pressure. Look, I know it's stating the obvious. It's a big world with a lot of problems right now. Hong Kong is a small, faraway place. I think the Hong Kong diaspora, the Hong Kong democracy movement has punched way above its weight in terms of keeping Hong Kong in the spotlight. But that's something we just have to keep doing every single day, because if you're not talking to your elected representatives in Ottawa, in DC, in London, or in Rome, in Paris, in Berlin, that issue is going to go away. I mean, there's too much going on. And again, I think we've done a good job. We're at the end of the beginning. We have to realize a year from now, most of these trials will be over. People will be sentenced. And if we don't remember them, if we aren't out there pushing, there's a danger they'll be forgotten. And that would just, as you said, that would just be a tragedy.
Now, last but not least, congratulations on your new book coming out. The global launch will be in Toronto, Canada. There are a lot of people from Hong Kong who immigrated to Toronto, Canada. I guess more than 400,000. So the book launch, also it's part of the World Hong Kong Forum. Mark and I will have a dialogue to talk not just about his book, but on you have the, I would say, very close contact with Jimmy Lai, especially during the last few months when Apple Daily launched the English edition and also the podcast, right? You talk more about how Jimmy is as a person and everything you want to talk about as well.
Yeah, well, it'll be great. We'll talk about Jimmy. We'll talk about the future of the democracy movement. Especially in the light of the many global changes that are taking place right now. I think it'll be a great opportunity to have a face-to-face in person, and of course, we'll have plenty of time for audience reaction, participation, Q&A, and should be a great afternoon.
Yeah, and there are also some other heavyweights who are thinking of coming too. Now they come from different spectrum. Some want Hong Kong's independence. Some people like me who want one country, two systems, but the original 1.0 version. Now it's a fake Rolex. You can buy two on Canal Street, New York for $10 US, right? Now it's a fake one. So we want the original one. So, very different spectrum. I don't know what you want, Mark. What do you want? Is it a secret?
It's not a secret. I'm a very simple person and very transparent. I want China to live up to its promises to the people of Hong Kong under the Basic Law and under the Sino-British Joint Declaration. I mean, it's pretty simple. If they did that, they wouldn't have had all these problems. I don't know why the CCP decided to make a problem of Hong Kong. It's kind of silly. They had a beautiful city, and they decided to wreck it because the people of Hong Kong wanted to hold China to its promises that they could elect their own mayor, elect their own city council, chief executive, and LegCo. That was too much for China. I think it really reflects an underlying insecurity, a very terrible insecurity on the part of China and on the part of Xi Jinping.
Yeah, my wish is I wish the World Hong Kong Forum can be. We could have it in Hong Kong someday, like 2026. I mean, if Hong Kong can be free.
Someday we'll be having Chuck Yu back in Hong Kong altogether at the World Hong Kong Forum in Hong Kong.
Yeah. I hope so. So for those who want to see Mark and some of the other Cantonese speakers, 世界香港論壇. So it's less than 60 days, and very likely I would like to invite Mark to appear one more time before the real show on January 5th, Sunday. But we will also have a dinner get-together. I'm planning the logistics of it on Saturday, January 4th, Saturday. But the 5th is the big event. Yeah, together with the Global Prayer Movement for Hong Kong at Tyndale Seminary. Yeah. So I'll give all the details. Next. Yeah. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you.
No, thank you, Ed. Thanks for everything you do for the people of Hong Kong and the people of Canada too.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Until next time. Okay. Bye.
Yes.